Hello again, vinyl community. Bill of Bill Vinylist, here again. And I'm about to do something different. We're going to do a series of videos on rock's 7-year itch. So most people, when they're speaking about rock music, pop music, everybody's talking about pop music, would do their divisions according to decades. So I'm going to do something slightly different. And I reckon that every 7 years there is not a seismic, but a significant shift in musical tastes as a new generation come through and they maybe don't like the records that their mum and dad had or their older brothers and they want something new. So this first episode is 1956 to 1962. So I'm going to show sort of compilation albums and maybe best ofs and significant albums. And that's going to be a bit difficult for this first episode because really rock and roll artists didn't really make albums as such. I know there's the Elvis Presley one that's, the famous cover that was revived by The Clash on London Calling, but really they were just a collection of singles. So I haven't got really albums to show this time round. But what I have is, this is a single. It's a 78. It's quite heavy, and it's on the Brunswick record label. And it's Bill Haley and his Comets and Rock Around the Clock. On the back, we have 13 Women. So that's one that I have to handle with care because I had another 78 of the Ying Tong song by the Goons and picked it up the wrong way. The record slid out of the sleeve and ended up in about 15 pieces on the floor. So that's quite a lesson. So first up with the compilations and the best rock and roll album in the world ever. And you've got Tutti Frutti by Little Richard. That'll Be the Day by the Crickets. This has got Move It by Cliff Richard. I'll come back to Cliff Richard later on. And we've also got Why Do Fools Fall in Love by Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. There's Brand New Cadillac by Vince Taylor and his Playboys. Born Too Late, the Ponytails, Sealed with a Kiss, Brian Hyland. You wouldn't think it was rock and roll, but Twist and Shout, the Isley Brothers, and famously covered by the Beatles. And Ain't That a Shame, Fats Domino. So that's a compilation that puts a spotlight on rock and roll and the period 56 to 1962. One of the very important labels of the time was, of course, Sun Records. So this is a great 2 CD collection. We have got Little Junior's Blue Flames with Mystery Train, which was covered by Elvis. There's Carl Perkins' Blue Suede Shoes. There's the Roy Orbison, I Never Knew that Roy Orbison was originally in Sun. There you go. And we've got the $1 Million Quartet. That's Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, and Carl Perkins, or some call it the Holy Trinity of rock and roll, plus Carl Perkins. Carl was a great artist in his own right. But we've also got Bill Justice is raunchy on this, and Brad Suggs cloudy, as well as Johnny Cash's Goodnight Irene. So a lot, you won't be able to read this. I never can get it in focus, but there are 50 Sun Records classics on here. And speaking about a classic record label covering the 50s, they also did a pretty good job in the 40s as well. But this is Speciality, and a great album called This Is How It All Began, Volume 2. Volume 1 is more gospel and some blues. And yeah. So on this, Speciality's big artist, of course, was Little Richard. And this has got Tutti Frutti and also Keep a Knocking. But there's some other great tracks on here. Lawdy Miss Claudie by Lloyd Price, Night Owl by Tony Allen and the Champs, and Lights Out by Jerry Byrne is fantastic. But yeah, everything on here is really good. And we've got Sam Cooke making an appearance on This Is How It All Began, Volume 2. Now, I showed the 78 of Bill Haley, Rock Around the Clock, but Bill Haley also did some other great songs such as Shake, Rattle and Roll and See You Later, Alligator, and R.O.C.K., Rock, Razzle Dazzle, and 40 Cups of Coffee. So it's a really nice album, not sure which MCA records. And of course, Bill Haley's only problem was he was too old. So he was reaching out to the teenagers, but he was a man, don't know if he probably in his mid-20s or something, mid-20s, early 30s. And he was just, they felt he was just a bit too old. So totally unfair. Can't have ageism in rock music. But who do we have to carry on the mantle? Hit records from Elvis. And this collection is the Sun collection on RCA. Of course, Sam Phillips of Sun sold the contract for Elvis to RCA to save the Sun record label. So, but this is a great collection. That's All Right, My Mama, Blue Moon of Kentucky, Milk Cow Blues Boogie, and I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone, and Mystery Train, and Blue Moon, and yeah, Good Rockin' Tonight. That's a great rock and roll standard. So that's Elvis on the Sun record label. But of course, he had such a great career. John Lennon says Elvis died when he joined the army. I think some of Elvis's ballads after that are great, and he's got such a superb voice. The man adds soul to everything. So a gatefold record, which opens very awkwardly. But this one of the big selling points, I think this was issued in the early 70s, and it's on pink vinyl. Elvis on pink vinyl. Let's see, record 1 has got Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Suede Shoes, and Hound Dog, as well as Love Me Tender and All Shook Up. And then side 2 of record 1 has got Don't and Jailhouse Rock by Lieber and Stoller, and A Fool Such As I, which is more of a ballad. And then we've got in side 3 Fever, Are You Lonesome Tonight, Wooden Heart, which is a bit saccharine for me, but never mind, and Can't Help Falling in Love. And then the fourth side, we've got Return to Sender from 62. Elvis, of course, didn't write many songs, or he was maybe co-writer with a handful, but the great rock and roll songwriter is, of course, Chuck Berry. And this is Motivating Chuck Berry 22 Rock and Roll Classics. Again, this compilation came out in 77, but yeah, he's the poet of rock and roll. Wonderful storytelling. We've got Johnny Be Good and Roll Over Beethoven, School Days. It's got to be rock and roll music if you want to dance with me. Carol, Bye Bye Johnny, Sweet Little Rock and Roller, No Particular Place to Go, Little Queenie, Memphis, Nadine, yeah, Brown Eyed Handsome Man, which is one of the tracks that the $1 Million Quartet do on that recording that they didn't know they were recording. Sam Phillips just flicked the switch and caught that for posterity. Great jam session. Then what next do I have but the Everly Brothers? 20 golden hits from the Everleys, Walk Right Back. You've got Crying in the Rain. You've got Wake Up Little Susie. And yeah, The Price of Love, which shows a Don and Phil Everly. But yeah, I maybe shouldn't read that one out. That's from 65. But yeah, Ebony Eyes, Bye Bye Love. Some great singles from this era. Bodlow Bryant, who worked with his wife Felice, wrote some fantastic songs. Don and Phil also wrote Kathy's Clown. We've mentioned him already as part of the $1 Million Quartet, and he's also on Sun Records and the original Wild Man of Rock and Roll, The Killer, Jerry Lee Lewis. And this is a great collection. We've got Lewis Boogie. We've got the two big hits, Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lot of Shaking Going On. And yeah, Jerry Lee does some great versions of the rock and roll standards, Sweet Little 16, Jailhouse Rock, and Jambalaya as well. And Money, That's What I Want. So a good gatefold with a couple of photographs of Jerry Lee and some recommendations of his other stuff. So yeah, Drinking Wine, Spodey Wodey, Drinking Wine. Yeah, CC Rider, Sweet Little Angel. And of course, his career came to a crashing halt for a while when it was discovered that he'd married his very young cousin. But that doesn't take away from the great legacy of rock and roll music. And then, yeah, rock and roll's full of tragedy as well. And Eddie Cochran died much too young. This has got great liner notes as well by Lenny Kaye. In fact, there's a little sort of booklet. So some great photographs, and the essay, let's call it, is one of the top liner notes on any album. Yeah, really good delving back into history. And pensive Eddie Cochran there. Songs on this, yeah, you've got all the greats. Something Else, which was covered by the Sex Pistols, and Summertime Blues, covered by The Who. Cut Across Shorty, I think Rod Stewart did a version of that. And Come On Everybody. He also does a version of Blue Suede Shoes. And Hallelujah, I Love Her So. 20 Flight Rock, which the Rolling Stones covered on Still Life, which is one of the best live albums in the history of rock music. We can't cover the period 1956 to 1962 without looking at the godfather of popular music, pop music rather than rock and roll music, although his contribution to rock and roll music is first rate. But yeah, Buddy Holly legend, great collection. Buddy lived from 1936 until he was killed in that horrific plane crash with Richie Valens and the Big Bopper in 1959, the day the music died. So again, this is a great collection. I think there is a Buddy Holly Greatest Hits or 20 Golden Greats, but this collection is first rate. Again, you've got some really good photographs, black and white photographs of Buddy Holly, and the liner notes are written by John Beecher. And it says exact recording dates are not available for some of the recordings due to the fact that Norman Petty did not keep such information at the time Holly and the Crickets recorded in Clovis. So what have we got on here? That'll Be the Day. Oh Boy, Not Fade Away, the Bo Diddley beat. And It's So Easy, Peggy Sue, Heartbeat. And then, yeah, Brown-Eyed Handsome Man. We've also got Peggy Sue Got Married, Raining in My Heart with the beautiful pizzicato strings, violin strings, Moon Dreams as well. Some of the orchestration is what paved the way for, I think, some of the Phil Spector stuff, and yeah, maybe even some of the Beatles work as well. But yeah, well, all right, yeah, rave on. A master of rock and roll music, or moving into more pop music. And can you imagine if he'd lived even another 10 years, the legacy that we would have had? Not the coolest look wearing specs, that's probably John Lennon's view, but he was probably glad that Buddy Holly wore spectacles as well. But yeah, really good collection there. So that's it for Rock's 7-year itch and the period 1956 to 62. I'll be back with 63 to 70. And just wanted to mention some ones that got away. So Roy Orbison, I'm sorry I didn't have any of his albums to show. I think I have a download of a collection of his music. And Cliff and the Shadows, Britain's answer to rock and roll. I'm of the opinion, don't shoot me, that Cliff's first and last great record was Move It. And you saw that that was included on that initial collection, the best rock and roll album in the world ever. So it includes Move It. But yeah, that's a wee bit tongue in cheek. Yeah, Cliff's had a great career and a wonderful fan base. And yeah, if it wasn't for Cliff, you know, what would British rock and roll, the British rock scene, would we had all these guitarists picking up a Fender and trying to play like Hank Marvin. So that's it this time round. I'll be back for another video and we'll cover the period 63 to 69. I wonder which groups and artists will feature in that particular episode. So bye from Bill, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you for another episode in Rock's 7-Year Itch. Bye.